Professor Haas, we have heard that you have written a book entitled Unity and Aspect, and that here in Moscow you have been teaching a course on metaphysics. Can you tell us about that?
I've been teaching my research, a book that is about metaphysics, hopefully coming out next year, but not just about metaphysics. It's about words and deeds, thoughts and things, us sitting here right now, you and me, etc. So I can give you some clues or hints, suggestions about what I've been working on in this text. In philosophy, epistemology, logic, philosophy of language, aesthetics, ethics, politics, etc., and metaphysics, then. And also in relation to philosophy, those sciences in relation to philosophy, the arts and sciences, the way that the arts and sciences could be reworked or rethought in a radical way, if possible. Because if we change the metaphysics, then the physics, if you will, in the sense of concrete, changes. The way in which we're hearing now, then, words and deeds, thoughts and things. So, what is metaphysics, then? It's the consideration of what is, the attempt to illuminate anything that is insofar as it is. In other words, everything that is, so being. Insofar as it is, insofar as anything is, and insofar as being is, that and how it is. And this means being qua being. So that's the question then. So being qua being, not being as substance, idea, God or the gods, spirit, will to power, essence, existence, absolute transcending, presence, etc., etc. So, what is being? It seems to me that this question has to be answered by how is being. The question, what is being, needs to be addressed in relation to the how. How is being? And the answer, it seems to me, is that being is implied, an implication. What is it? An implication. How is it? Implied, and implicated, therefore. So, what do I mean by this? Aristotle writes in the Metaphysics, Eide toon, ke to hen, tauton ke miaphusis, to akoluthen, allelois hosper arche ke aition. So if being and unity are the same and are one thing, one nature, in the sense that they imply one another, they follow from one another as principle and cause. So being and unity are the same. They imply one another. What is said, therefore, of being must be said also of unity and vice versa, although they're not identical, which means we must reread and reinterpret Aristotle's metaphysics, not just as a thesis on being, but also, or just as much, as a thesis on unity. So, being and unity are implied, they imply one another, they are implications. What is that? An implication is what is implied, and that means only implied. And so, does not present itself, although nor does it simply remain absent. I'll give two examples. At the end, one from literature, one from philosophy. At the end of Keats's ode on a Grecian urn, the urn speaks. I quote, "When old age shall this generation waste, thou shalt remain in midst of other woe than ours, a friend to man, to whom thou sayest, beauty is truth, truth beauty, that is all ye know on earth and all ye need to know." In other words, being is truth, truth beauty, and the verb to be is merely implied, neither present nor absent. Or from Heraclitus, ethos anthropo daimon. Normally, we translate man's character is his fate, or a person's character is his divinity. Of course, we have, if you will, Heidegger's translation in the letter on humanism. Der geheure Aufenthalt ist dem Menschen das offene für die Anwesenung des Gottes, des Ungeheuren. The familiar, it's usually translated as the familiar abode is for man, the open region for the presencing of God, the unfamiliar one. But in both of these translations, the translator, whether it's Heidegger or the Standard English translation, it uses the word is. A person's character is his divinity. Man's character is his fate. But Heraclitus does not use the verb to be, does not use the is. Ethos, anthropo, daimon. That's it. Here in English and in Greek and in many other languages like Russian, being is implied. It's not there, nor is it merely not there. It's neither present nor absent. That which is implied, being, therefore, is that which does not come to presence, nor does it remain absent. If it did, it would not be being, for it would not be implied, an implication. So, what is an implication? It seems to me we can think of implication in three ways, following Kant's discussion of the categories in the table of judgments. Either we can think of it as apodictic, esoteric, or problematic. And the problem here, it seems to me, is that when it comes to thinking the problematic or thinking implication, something like implication, as problematic, Kant reduces the problematic to a question of possibility. I quote from the Critique of Pure Reason. Problematische Urteile sind solche, wo man das Bejahen oder Verneinen als bloß möglich beliebig annimmt. In other words, problematic judgments are those in which one affirms or denies the judgment as simply possible, möglich. In this way, Kant, it seems to me, is unable to think or refuses to think the problematic qua problematic. And that's what an implication is. It's problematic. It's that which neither comes to presence nor remains merely absent. And being and unity are these kinds of things, implications. Being and unity are the same. So, not only being, in the examples that I gave, but also unity would be implied, an implication. This is why Aristotle insists that in the Metaphysics, again, man and existent man and one man are the same thing. And one existent man would add nothing to existent man. Why is this? Because unity is nothing apart from being. And there must be exactly as many species of being as of unity. In other words, one could completely reread the Metaphysics as a philosophy of unity. But if being and unity are implied, how so? Heidegger, I think, offers us a clue. At the very beginning of Being and Time, he writes, die Interpretation der Zeit als des möglichen Horizontes eines jeden Seinsverständnisses überhaupt ist ihr vorläufiges Ziel. In other words, the interpretation of time is the possible horizon for any possible understanding of being. Time. The possible horizon for any understanding of being is time. And so too, if being and unity imply one another, time is the possible horizon for any understanding of being. So why time? Because time is not a watch, nor another objective measure of the motion of things, although nor is it simply our subjective way of experiencing the world, nor is it nothing at all. Rather, time is the way in which anything is whatsoever. The way in which anything is whatsoever, and therefore how each thing is one in any way whatsoever. In this way, it is the way in which each thing comes to presence now or goes into absence in the past and being in the future. So the way in which anything is present or absent. This is why we say, this man is here and now, or that woman was or will be there and then. Why? Because being, être, to be, sein, is a verb. Like any other verb, thinking, making, speaking, doing, eating, sleeping, etc. And verbs, which the Germans call Zeitwörter, time words, have tense. That is time. Time is indicated by tense, and they must be conjugated because they're temporal. So if being and unity imply one another and are implied by anything that is, so too time. So time too is an implication, implied by the way in which we are and are one, now or not now, in the present or not. So, being, unity, and time. Only time? No. Aspect is the other of time. What do I mean? Linguists remind us that every verb has time and aspect. This is why we say, this man lived in Moscow, or was living in Moscow, or that woman writes, or is writing a book. Aspect is precisely not time. It is the other of time. And just as being and unity imply one another, so too with time and aspect. They imply one another. So, now we can see maybe what metaphysics is about. It's about being and unity, time and aspect, insofar as they are implied implications. This is why we would need to rethink words and deeds, thoughts and things, us sitting here right now. We would need to rethink philosophy as a whole, epistemology and logic, philosophy of language, aesthetics, politics, ethics, etc., and metaphysics. We would need to rethink what we do, therefore, in the arts and the sciences. And the way in which we are and are one, temporally and aspectually, here and now, there and then, are words and deeds how we feel or imagine or understand the things around us and ourselves. So, maybe I can leave you then with one clue, a hint or suggestion of the direction the research has taken. Heraclitus tells us who we are and where we live. And he calls us anthropos, humans, the ones with human faces, who look like humans at least. And this is the anthropos that will determine the definition of who we are for metaphysics, for the history of philosophy as metaphysics, from the Greeks to the present age. But the Greeks had another name for us, for our way of being and being one, temporally and aspectually. Homer and Sophocles also called us another word in Greek. They called us phos, that is, light, or rather, the ones who illuminate. Illuminate by being, temporally and aspectually. But if we're phos, it's not because we illuminate, but rather, if we illuminate, it's because we're phos. That is, illuminating our way of being one, temporally and aspectually, and the arts and sciences, words and deeds, thoughts and things, all these are our illuminations. They imply being and unity, time and aspect, but they also implicate us thereby as well. So this is what I've been working on.